Today, we're taking the controls off autopilot and plunging into the truly fascinating and sometimes, well, alarming world of influence and compliance.
Yeah, we're not just looking at ads.
No, not at all. We're looking at the fundamental psychological hacks used by people whose whole job is to get us to say yes.
The salespeople, fundraisers, recruiters, the compliance professionals.
And our sources for this deep dive come from years of systematic immersion into these techniques.
Exactly. And our mission today is to do more than just list the weapons they use. We want you to understand why they work.
Because they're not random.
Not at all. They all succeed by exploiting these universal automatic mental shortcuts that, usually help us survive. They find the trigger, press it, and we just play the tape.
And to really get how mechanical that is, we have to start with a surprisingly literal example.
The turkey.
The turkey.
Absolutely.
Right.
So animal behaviorists like M.W. Fox found this really dramatic fixed action pattern in mother turkeys. A mother turkey is highly protective. She'll naturally, viciously attack a stuffed polecat. It's a natural enemy.
Makes sense.
But, and this is the amazing part, if researchers put that same stuffed polecat near her and just played a simple cheep cheep sound.
The sound of a baby turkey.
Right. Her entire defensive program was overridden.
Wait, so she tolerates the enemy?
Not only tolerates it, she gathers it underneath her. That cheep cheep sound is the single isolated trigger feature. It flips the switch.
It's like a click or action.
It turns her into an automaton. And look, that pattern is usually a good thing, right? Cheep cheep means baby, and baby needs protection.
But in the hands of an exploiter, that one trigger makes her ridiculously vulnerable.
And before we laugh too hard at the turkey, we have to realize that we humans, well, we're pretty much the same. We have our own pre-programmed tapes.
These mental shortcuts, like assuming something expensive must be good quality.
Yeah, and they're necessary. We need them to function in this crazy, complex world. But when an exploiter figures out how to activate that trigger, we play our tape at exactly the wrong time, without even thinking.
Okay, so let's unpack the first of these major weapons.
Let's do it. The first one exploits our fundamental social structure, the rule for reciprocation.
That powerful, deeply ingrained sense of obligation to repay what someone has given you. A gift, a service.
Or even a concession. It's what allows society to function, really.
Yeah.
I can give you something today, and I trust I'll be repaid tomorrow.
What's fascinating is how this seems to just completely override our personal feelings. We saw this in Dennis Regan's study on art appreciation.
Yes. So subjects were rating paintings next to a guy named Joe, who was part of the experiment.
Okay.
In one condition, Joe leaves and comes back with 2 Cokes, one for himself and one for the subject. Totally unsolicited.
Like a free favor.
Exactly. Later, Joe asked them to buy some raffle tickets. And the finding was that the people who got the Coke bought way more tickets.
So the free Coke was a stronger compliance tool than whether or not they even liked Joe.
The debt was totally independent of the relationship. And what's crucial for you to realize is this works even with people you find, unwelcome.
Right, like the Hare Krishna Society in the 70s.
A perfect example. A lot of people found them jarring, but their donations exploded when they started deploying this exact tactic.
Giving out those small, unsolicited flowers or books before asking for a donation.
That small, even unwanted gift created this immediate, powerful feeling of obligation.
Which is why today every LinkedIn message offers free tips. Every company gives you a free report. They're creating a social debt before they make the ask.
They are activating your reciprocation tape. But it also applies to concessions.
How so?
If someone conceives something to you, you feel obliged to return that concession. This is the rejection then retreat technique.
Oh, the door in the face. So if I ask you for something huge that I know you'll say no to.
Right.
And then I retreat to the smaller thing I wanted all along, you see my retreat as a favor.
And you feel like you have to repay it by agreeing. You got it. It combines the reciprocity rule with the perceptual contrast principle.
The classic Boy Scout approach. Ask for the $5 candy bar, get rejected, then retreat to the $1 chocolate bar.
And that $1 purchase now seems tiny by comparison. It's a double whammy of psychological pressure.
But if it's that transparent, why did really smart, high-stakes operators like John Mitchell fall for it during the Watergate planning?
That's where you see the real power of a perceived concession. G. Gordon Liddy's first plan was wild. $1 million intelligence plan.
Which they rejected, obviously.
Of course. Then he came back with a $500,000 plan, also rejected.
Still too much?
But his final plan, the one they approved, the one with the break-in, was for $250,000.
Why that one?
It wasn't because they loved it. It was because they felt they had to reciprocate Liddy's concession. They couldn't just send him away with nothing after he'd climbed down so far.
The social obligation overrode their logical caution. It's amazing.
It is.
So if reciprocity traps us with this external debt, the next tool, consistency, it traps us with our own self-image.
This is a huge one. Our nearly obsessive desire to be and to appear consistent with what we've already done.
Once we take a stand, we dig in.
We justify that earlier decision no matter what. The Sarah and Tim story is a perfect, if heartbreaking example.
Yeah, so Sarah breaks her stable engagement to take back her boyfriend, Tim, but only after he promises to marry her and stop drinking.
Right, and of course he quickly goes back on his word.
But she doesn't leave him. She becomes more devoted.
Exactly. She convinces herself that he's number one in her life to internally justify the enormous commitment she already made. She changed her own self-image to stay consistent.
That inner justification is the key, isn't it?
It's everything. Compliance professionals know that if they can get you to make one initial commitment, even a tiny one, it can change how you see yourself. It's a hook.
And one of the most ingenious, maybe slightly evil applications of this is the toy scarcity scam.
Oh, it's brilliant.
So you're saying toy companies actually plan to undersupply stores before Christmas?
Absolutely. The strategy is 3 parts. First, they advertise a super popular toy, get parents to promise it to their kids.
Okay, the commitment is made.
Then they undersupply the stores. Parents are forced to buy substitute toys.
Right.
Then third, they rerun all the ads after Christmas. The kids demand the original toy they were promised.
And the parents, wanting to be consistent, trudge back out and buy the second expensive toy.
It doubles the company's profit by exploiting the parents' commitment to that earlier promise.
That's just wow.
And that commitment is strongest when it's written down, public, and requires some effort. We saw this in Chinese POW camps during the Korean War.
They didn't use brutality at first.
No, they started small. They just pushed prisoners to write down harmless pro-communist statements or even just copy them.
Just the act of writing it was enough.
Yes. Even just copying a statement led to collaboration because the prisoners subconsciously had to stay consistent with their own written public word. It subtly changed their self-image to collaborator.
Which brings us to social proof. This is the idea that we see an action as more appropriate when other people are doing it.
It's why canned laughter works on TV, even when we all know it's fake. It just triggers that internal tape that says, everyone else is laughing, so this must be funny.
And it's a powerful shortcut, especially when we're uncertain.
Exactly. If we're not sure how to act, we look to others for clues. But this is where the pluralistic ignorance effect becomes truly dangerous.
You're talking about the Catherine Genovese case.
The tragic 1964 case. 38 neighbors watched her attack, and nobody called the police.
And most people just write that off as apathy.
But it's not apathy. It's a specific psychological breakdown caused by uncertainty. Think about it. You hear screams, breaking glass. It's ambiguous.
Is it a crime? A domestic dispute?
A truck backfiring. So you look outside. And because everyone wants to appear calm and poised, you see a bunch of other people just looking, doing nothing.
Because they're all looking for clues, too.
And the group collectively interprets this inaction as proof that it's a non-emergency. This pluralistic ignorance paralyzes everyone.
That completely reframes the whole bystander idea. So if you're ever the victim, your job is to reduce the crowd's uncertainty.
Absolutely. You have to break that automatic social proof tape. First, be precise. I am being attacked. Help.
And second,
and this is crucial, stop asking the group for help.
Yeah.
You have to pick out one single person and assign the task.
You point at them.
Point. Look them in the eye. You, in the blue jacket, call the police right now. It removes all uncertainty about the need and about who is responsible.
And this social proof gets even stronger when it's from similar others, right? We look to people who are like us.
David Phillips's research on the Werther effect is chilling. He found that after highly publicized suicides, there's a huge spike in copycat suicides.
Often disguised as accidents, like car crashes.
Exactly. But the really terrifying detail is that the victims of these accidents are statistically most similar in age and background to the original suicide victim.
So they're subconsciously following a script set by someone they relate to.
The influence is that powerful, it can be deadly.
That's a stark reminder. Let's quickly touch on a few more subtle tools, starting with the contrast principle.
We can group contrast, liking, and authority together because they often manipulate the context around the request. The contrast principle is simple. How we see one thing is influenced by what came just before it.
Like the clothier who sells you the expensive suit first, so the $95 sweater seems cheap by comparison.
Or the car dealer. Once you've agreed to a $30,000 car, what's another $500 for a protection package? It seems trivial in contrast.
Real estate agents do this all the time.
All the time. They show you those setup houses first, the dumps they call them. After seeing two of those, the real property looks fantastic by comparison.
It's all about setting the context. Then there's liking. It's obvious we comply more with people we like, but that liking can be, well, manufactured.
Easily. It could be based on physical attractiveness. That's the halo effect, where we just assume good-looking people are also smart and kind.
Or similarity. We're more likely to help someone who dresses like us.
Or shares a birthday, or a first name. It's amazing how trivial it may be. And then there's the principle of association.
The poor TV weatherman who gets hate mail for bad weather.
Exactly. He didn't cause the storm, but people associate him with the bad news. This goes way back to the ancient Persian messenger being executed for bringing news of a defeat.
We can't separate the messenger from the message.
Which is why cars are sold with beautiful models and athletes. It's all about association.
Finally, let's talk authority. The deference we pay to titles, uniforms, clothes.
This is maybe the most efficient click-war response we have. We're taught from childhood that legitimate authority is usually correct, so it saves us time to just obey.
But that creates a really dangerous shortcut.
It causes us to just stop thinking and start reacting. The best anecdote for this is the bizarre rectal earache case in the hospital.
That story is just incredible.
A doctor wrote an abbreviated order to put eardrops in the R ear. The nurse, seeing the command, came from a legitimate authority figure.
Just did it.
She administered the drops rectally, and neither the patient nor the nurse questioned how absurd it was, because the order came from the boss. They just deferred.
Which brings us to our final and maybe most intense weapon, because it plays on our fear of loss.
Scarcity.
Right. Scarcity works because things that are hard to get are usually better. Availability becomes a shortcut for quality.
The chocolate chip cookie study is perfect here. People rated cookies as more desirable when there were only 2 in the jar versus 10.
But what really makes the desires skyrocket is when the scarcity is new.
Yes. The cookies rated highest of all were the ones where the supply had just dropped from 10 down to 2. We desire newly restricted things the most.
Why that intensity for new scarcity?
It's rooted in something called psychological reactance. When our freedoms, like the freedom to get a cookie, are taken away, we fight to get them back.
And we desire the restricted thing even more.
Far more strongly. This is why revolutions often happen not during constant oppression, but when a period of progress is followed by a sudden reversal.
Like the resistance to the 1991 Soviet coup. People had gained freedoms, and when those were suddenly threatened, the backlash was overwhelming.
The rule is simple. Freedoms once granted will not be relinquished without a fight.
And this also explains the banned information effect.
Definitely. When students were told a speech was banned, they didn't just want to hear it more.
They became more sympathetic to its argument.
Exactly, without even hearing the content. The act of censorship made the argument more persuasive.
So we've covered 7 powerful automatic mechanisms: reciprocity, consistency, social proof, contrast, liking, authority, and scarcity.
They're the click-work tapes running in the background, making us all vulnerable to exploitation.
So how do we defend ourselves? How do we disengage the automaton?
There's a 2-pronged strategy. First is the stomach signal, the gut check. You have to listen for that physical tightening in your stomach. It's a clear signal that you're being trapped into doing something you don't really want to do.
That's your body recognizing the pressure before your brain can rationalize it away. What's the second defense?
The heart of hearts check. When you're facing a tough choice, maybe consistency is pulling at you, you ask yourself one simple question. Knowing what I know now, if I could go back in time, would I make the same choice?
And you have to trust the very first flash of feeling.
The very first flash. Before all the logical justifications flood in to defend your earlier actions. That quick, honest feeling is your rational mind grabbing the controls.
As modern life gets more intricate, faster, driven by algorithms and constant data, we have to rely more and more on these shortcuts just to get by.
We've created a world that's so complex, our natural ability to process information is it's overwhelmed.
So the final provocative thought for you is this. If the frequency of our automatic responses is going to increase, and the trickery exploiting them is also on the rise,
Will you be able to recognize when to trust your automatic pilot and when it's time to grasp the controls?